Well, good morning and welcome to Emerson Institute at City of Light. I'm Reverend Dr. Paul Gretz, and I'm the senior minister here at City of Light, and I'm welcoming you to today's exciting class on the basic principles of science of the mind. It's by the book by Frederick Bales, and I know that you're going to enjoy our discussion today. It's all around prayer treatment and the power of prayer treatment, how to share it successfully, and some great tools for our spiritual journey. So I'm glad that you're with us today. And if you're joining us through live streaming, through our Facebook pages, welcome. If you're joining us through our YouTube channel, City of Light Atlanta, welcome. And for those who've joined us here in our classroom setting, we appreciate each one of you who are here, social distancing, wearing your masks. We say welcome to you as well. So let's take out our notes, and if you have a note packet, let's make sure everyone has one and that you're ready to follow along. And for those of you who are joining us through live streaming, if you'd like to have notes sent to you, please reach out to me at revtpaul@aol.com, and we'll see that notes are emailed to you just prior to every class setting. You can follow along. These are sort of cliff notes of the chapter, so it helps us to just kind of dig in deeper, glean some of the great nuggets of inspiration that are provided for us. And the notes then become a springboard for our discussion. I want to let you know that if you'd like to interact with us, if you'd like to share a comment or ask a question, we encourage you to type it in. And as you do so, our registrar will be watching the Facebook posting and be able to alert me of your questions so we can create a dialogue. And for those of you who are joining us in our classroom setting, we encourage you to just give a wave if you'd like to share something or if you'd like to ask a question. We appreciate all the dialogue and the interaction. Please know that we need you to speak up or even come closer to the camera if you're making a statement or asking a question so that all of our viewers can listen and hear together. Well, let's just prepare for our class setting, and let's do so by taking 3 deep cleansing breaths. We're going to breathe in through our nose, we're going to hold for a moment, and then breathe out through our mouth. This will allow us to reset our thought process and reset our vibrational frequency to be a little bit more in tune with all that the Spirit has for us in today's class setting. So I invite you to join with me. Let's take some deep breaths together. Breathe in and release. Deep breath in and release. Deep breath in and release. And in this moment of silence, let's set our intention for that which we desire to transpire in our life during this time that we share together. And so it is. Well, this is class number 5 in our ongoing study. I hope you've been enjoying reading along in our textbook. The textbook is The Basic Principles of Science of the Mind by Frederick Bales. If you don't have a copy, you can certainly get them through Amazon.com. They'll arrive in about 2 days. There, you can also get some used copies if you like that are more affordable. So there's a lot of different options, but we encourage you to follow along and most importantly, read along and let this study guide be a tool for you. Class number 5 is all on the technique of treatment, and we're continuing on this. If you remember, last week we began talking about the steps of treatment, and Frederick Bales has offered us an analytical method that is broken down into 7 steps. Now, this might be slightly different when we talk about prayer treatment than some of the simple steps of 5 or others that have been offered to us. Because let me tell you this, there is no one perfect way to pray, but that we are encouraging all these different aspects that you might use each step as needed for your own life. And each one brings some different insights into how we might best and most effective in our prayer treatment. So let's begin by making sure that everybody understands what prayer treatment is. Someone want to share with us, what do you think prayer treatment is? Dr. David Carter.
Prayer treatment is treating our doubt.
Treating our doubt. Great. Brenda.
I think prayer treatment is, you You can do it for someone else, and you can do it for yourself, and you look for the best outcome.
Looking for the best outcome, naming and affirming that which you so desire. So prayer treatment is an affirmative style of prayer, and it really is in line with the guidelines of Scripture. Ancient Scripture found within the New Testament of Jesus' teaching of a prayer guideline. It gives us an example of the Lord's Prayer. And prayer treatment is stepped out in each one of the different aspects of the Lord's Prayer. And it gives us an example from ancient wisdom of how to pray in a way that is affirmative, that speaks with great authority, that removes all doubt and fear and question, that brings about a sense of resolution, a feeling that it is so, and so that you can release the burden and you can walk in great gratitude, knowing that you have the answer to your prayer. And in prayer treatment, every answer to your prayer is found within the prayer. So we want to make sure that in prayer treatment, we're speaking that which we desire. We're speaking the realization of an answer to the prayer that we are speaking. All right, so this analytical method offers us 7 steps, and last week we began breaking them down, starting out with relaxation. So if you remember our discussion last week, it was really encouraging us to assume the position in which there's little physical attention as possible. This doesn't mean necessarily that you have to sit in a meditation pose or cross your legs or sit on the floor, whatever it may be. It's up to you. What is a position where there's the least amount of physical tension within your body? Then making sure that you have mental and emotional relaxation by just sort of releasing all stress. We do this together as we breathe. Taking these 3 deep breaths allow a cleansing of mental and emotional stress that may come to our lives. All the chaos of the day, we're releasing it, and we're allowing ourselves to be in a relaxed state. And then opening our lives up to feeling this sense of oneness that removes all blocks and barriers to the wonderful flow of divine wisdom that wants to come to our life, and that we might speak the very mind of infinite knowledge, the very mind and the very knowing of the divine, the very mind that we call God. And in this process of relaxation, it's very important that we do some moments of just releasing all anger, resentment, sort of cleansing the inner life. This is great preparation for prayer. It allows us to be much more centered. Last week, then, we also talked about recognition. That we must recognize that we are surrounded by an ocean of mind in which lies all the answers to every problem of the world. This recognition is the acknowledgement. It is to acknowledge that I know that the answers are available to us. So as we're praying, we want to also speak in that confidence, speak in this sense of knowing, speak in this sense of having this full recognition that God is already at work, that God knows the desires of our heart before we even ask. So we're recognizing this very principle. Now, let's begin to add the next steps as we dig into this chapter. That is chapter number 5 for us, or class number 5 for us on this technique. The next step that Frederick Bales offers to us is relationship. And I think it's so important that we begin to understand what is our relationship with God. I find that so many people come from an understanding of God as Father, and so there's this intimate, personal relationship. And they quite often have made God so personal that they've also sort of shaped in mind that God is actually a being. That they think of God as sitting on this throne, an actual being located in one spot in the heaven, on a throne. And we've made him very personal in the sense that he has a personality and he would be judging. And of course, he would be masculine in every context in what we've created in our mind. Now, that's not always true. So what we want to look at is how do we shatter some of these graven images that we created around our concept of God? Because we know in the 10 Commandments, there is this challenge for us that thou shalt not have any graven image, So we think quite often, oh, wait a minute, that means what? Statues? That may depict God, but how about a graven image held in mind? Sometimes when we're holding something in thought, in mind, it becomes a picture that is formed for us. So we want to release any kind of graven image, any kind of form or concept we have of God that is creating some sort of physical being. We want to release that, but we know that God is presence, and that presence is everywhere. So it cannot be limited to one place or one body, but that the divine presence is throughout the universe, and that God is spirit, and that God is love. These things are the true aspects of defining what God is, rather than God being created or seen as some human structure, or where we've made God out to be more human than us being human, being more like God. So the term God is really difficult to define. For everything seen and unseen in some part is some part of this three-phased intelligence of what we call God. So let's just take a look. Our bodies are an extension of the unformed substance, which is the body of God. So we've come from God, created in the image and likeness of God. So in that context, we understand that the image and likeness is not something physical, that God has the same nose as I do or the same hair color or skin. That's not it at all, but created in the very image and likeness of character, of wisdom, created in that image and that likeness. And our bodies then are an extension of the very body of God, or that which is of God, that very essence that is universal throughout. We are an extension of that. We are then a revelation of the divine. And our minds are an extension of God as mind. God is this infinite mind, this infinite wisdom, this infinite knowledge, this infinite knowing. That's what the divine is. And that's why sometimes it's really helpful for us to release the term God in the first place. We kind of think that is God's name. That is just what God is, or what God does, but it's not God's name. So we think, oh, dear God. Well, wait a minute. How about dear universe, dear mind, dear infinite wisdom? These terms might better suit us in helping us to move away from any kind of graven image or any kind of concept that's formed in mind of what we think God is. Now, our minds are the extension of God's mind, or of God as mind, and our spirit is the extension of God as spirit. Man then is linked at every point to the three-sided infinite, meaning body, mind, and spirit, a three-sided concept of what we call God, a sort of trinity of what we might refer to as God, as body, mind, and spirit. And we are the same. We are body. We have a body, a physical body. We have a mind, and we have the spirit. So man is expressing, although imperfectly, in the relative what God is in the perfect absolute. So what God is in the whole, we are a portion of, or a revelation of. And when we understand that relationship then with God, we understand a little bit more. This is who God is, and we understand who we are, and more importantly, what we are. Because what we are is the expression of the divine, the expression of God. So what we are is this divine revelation. And we begin to understand, I'm a divine revelation. I'm an expression of that infinite power and presence, that infinite wisdom, and I'm an expression of it. And all that is of this universe, the infinite knowledge, is available and is within us. That's right, within us. We are created in the image and likeness of that infinite wisdom, of that infinite knowledge, of that infinite power that is unlimited. That's what we are. We're an extension of this. So we must understand our relationship then with this dynamic power is that we need to understand that God is personality and impersonal principle. Two aspects. God is personality and impersonal principle. And as a question.
Were they
Bales uses the word principle a lot. Could we equate that with law? I mean, are we talking about the same thing here?
Yes. I mean, I think we can certainly...
You know the law.
Right,
And you know
exactly.
how I fought that
Yep.
word.
Yes,
so-
I know.
So,
And-
okay.
And you're getting more comfortable with it.
Yes.
Law and understanding it and principle and the very operation of how the divine works. So let's break that down, because as we go to the impersonal, we need to understand these two aspects of God, so that we could really understand the kind of relationship that we're called to have with this infinite power, with the universe. So we need to understand these aspects. The impersonal is that the universe is impersonal towards its inhabitants, in that the sunlight and the rain fall upon the just and the unjust. There is no favoritism in God. There's no partiality in God. The universe is not favoring one race or society over another. God is not, and let's just use the word the universe, is this divine infinite wisdom, is not favoring one nation over the other. There is not one being that is favored over the other. I love it from the New Testament, writing to the church at Rome. The author, Apostle Paul, writes, in Christ there is no partiality. There is no Jew, no Greek, no male, no female. There's not a division, for the divine sees us all the very same. What a wonderful invitation for us to do the same, to see our world as one, not separated, not labeled with divisiveness and saying, oh, I'm this and you're that, and there's no way that we can be in relationship with one another, but seeing the world with the eyes of the divine that sees everything in oneness, everything as the same. So the divine power and presence wants to work in you the same as it wants to work in Steve or David or Elise. It's there to work within each and every one of us, the very same. So that's why it's quite often when we see some great blessing happening to someone, sometimes within our human nature, what rises up is sort of a sense of jealousy, and we become envious. Well, how come you have it? And how come this happened? How come you're more blessed? Or how come this is going on? What we're just simply saying is we're speaking from our own concepts of lack, and we don't want to do that. Instead, we want to acknowledge if it happens for one, it happens for all. So we understand this, that if we see someone's prosperity and someone's blessing, we should rejoice and say, wow, this is an example of what can happen for me. If I were to shed all my doubts and worries and ideas and essence of separation and release all of that and walk in this complete oneness with the divine, that which is blessing, which has provided blessing for others, will also provide blessing for me. This is the very good. God is the good all the time, God is the good. So what we understand is that God is personal as God responds to the thoughts of man. What becomes more personal is that God becomes intimate with us, shall we say, through our thoughts. That is our connection with the divine. So we see God as impersonal, meaning that there's no partiality, not showing favoritism, not in any way showing any kind of special relationship with one or the other. Yes, Brenda has a question.
And it doesn't matter whether you have been enlightened or not.
That's
God
right.
looks at you in the same way that he looks at everybody, which is perfect.
That's right.
He created perfection.
God created us as perfection. We're in that image and likeness. And what is that image and likeness? Perfection. That's right. It's time for us to awaken to the very good that's within us. There's so much of traditional religion in our world that always wants to speak of the bad in us, to speak of the unworthiness, to speak that we are not good. Yet what we find within science of the mind, what we find actually within the ancient wisdom of the scriptures, which we find echoed over and over again from great teachers and sages, is that we're created in the good, and the goodness is within us. We're created in that perfection. And that's how God sees us. And we're called to see the very same, to see our own perfection, and to see the perfection in one another. Whoa, wait a minute, you may say. See the perfection, because I can see a lot of imperfections in so-and-so and someone in my social circle or on television or a politician or this or that. And we may constantly want to point out, I can see a lot of imperfections. But here's our calling, to shift from the physical to the spiritual and to begin to see the perfection in one another and to call it out. I love that. When there's a sense of calling it out, naming it. I see the good in you. I see that you're amazing. I see that you're powerful. I see that you're wise. And people, wise, powerful, amazing, me? That's right. We just have to awaken to this, because when we do, we awaken to our highest and best, that this is how we were created in perfection. And that's how God sees us. So the aspect of personality of God is that the relationship then is one of kind rather than degree. Let me explain that. That which is in harmony tends to unify with that which is also in harmony. Likes attract likes. So our the very personality, shall we say, of God is this love, this great grace, this compassion, this great forgiveness. And when we align with that and we express that within ourselves, we're drawn to that very connection, that very character of the divine, and we are connected. You know, there's a saying, birds of a feather flock together, and the question is, who are you flocking with? So what kind of people are you flocking with? You know, what kind of people are you hanging out with? Because likes attract likes. And so it is in our spiritual realm, that the divine, this good, all good, is wanting to connect with us, but it cannot connect with the hatred and anger, judgment, condemnation, fear, sense of lack that rises up within us. So to come into oneness, we must have the same vibrational frequency, the same mind, the same attitude as the divine. And that oneness, that personality, matching with that which is true within us, that we're living out, comes together. Dr. David Carter, you have a question?
Yes. So if it's true that likes attract likes, if birds of a feather flock together, then it's not true that opposites attract.
That opposites attract. Well, I think what we find is that that may be a little different analogy, but what we'll say is that what comes into harmony, what comes into unity, what comes into oneness is the like attracting like. So the opposite, we might say, certainly in dating relationships, a lot of people say, the opposites attract. One is tall, one is short, one is aggressive, one is passive. All these kind of things, we may say opposites may attract in that way. But what really brings us into the unity is our commonalities. So though we may see opposites attracting in our world, what really is drawing us is what we do have in common. So the tall and the short, though they may be opposites, come together with their commonality. That's what really brings them into unity. They may attract something that's different than because it's intriguing, but really what pulls together in unity and harmony is that which they share in common. Couples, as an example, that are maybe opposite but share goals, common goals, are united. And that's where the harmony of one resonates with the harmony of the other, and they come into a sense of unity.
So then when people say opposites attract, they're basically talking about the physical, not the spiritual.
I believe so, yes. You're going to find more, that is a great explanation. Yeah. That opposites attract in the physical because we're attracted to something in the physical that we may see that we may think we don't have or possess. But really, our true attractions are going to be in our commonalities, our common interests. That's what's going to unite us. That's where we resonate in perfect harmony, where we are coming together, that we resonate, and we just sort of melt into one another. So it is with the divine presence of God that is all good. When we awaken to the all good within our own lives, we awaken to it. What happens is we are now attracting more of that Spirit of God, that wisdom of God, that infinite knowledge, that infinite power and presence. We're attracting as we begin to acknowledge it within our own selves. So here's the key thing. Have you acknowledged today your perfection? Have you acknowledged today your beauty, your grace, your compassion, your love, the character of the divine in you? Have you acknowledged it? Because it's there within you, and you need to speak it and call it forth within your own life, as well as calling it forth in the lives of others. So when we interact with one another, let's be complimentary, meaning that we call out the highest and best. Not so much that it's complimentary about, oh, I like that blouse you're wearing, or I love your shoes or your hair. Those are lovely. That's great too. But also drawing out, complimenting. I see the love of God in you. I see the grace and compassion in you. I see the wonderful gifts of helps within you. I acknowledge that, and I'm seeing the good, the perfection that's within you, your true nature. So what we want to do is remember that we're permeated by this infinite mind, and the author gives us this illustration of you throw a biscuit into the ocean. He's English, so a tea biscuit, I say. It goes off into the ocean, and what happens is it soaks up all the essence of the ocean. If that tea biscuit is sitting in the ocean long enough, it's going to absorb all of that. What happens is we become permeated by this infinite mind as we rest in the presence, in the knowing, in the wonderful spirit and feeling of the divine. So as we acknowledge the divine within our own individual lives, we acknowledge this and say, I am fully aware of the divine presence, my true nature. I'm an expression of God. I'm an expression of this all good. I acknowledge it. What happens is we rest in these thoughts, and what happens, it permeates us even more. Like that tea biscuit floating in the ocean, it gets soggy and soaks up all the water. Well, that's the way we are with this infinite presence of God. How beautiful it is in our time of silence and meditation to just simply rest in the divine presence, to just rest in that and soak it in, just take it in. You know how beautiful it is to sit outside in nature? I have a lovely patio surrounded by woods with birds singing and sunlight coming through the tree branches and the breeze blowing on a beautiful summer afternoon. It's a beautiful place, and you want to take it all in. You want to absorb everything that's there, surrounded by beautiful flowers and plants. I want to visually take it in, but I also want to emotionally take it in. All of this around me is a revelation of God. And in those moments of meditation and silence, to just absorb and to take in the love, the grace, the good, the wisdom, the knowledge, all that is of the divine, and allow it to permeate our lives. Now let's go on to the next aspect of prayer treatment. So far we've discussed in detail that we need to begin with relaxation, centering ourselves, mental and emotional relaxation, cleansing all thought and releasing all stress, beginning with a recognition that we are surrounded by an ocean of mind, which in that ocean lies all the answers to every problem. Then acknowledging our relationship. These are all great things to prepare for moving into a greater depth of understanding and a greater awareness of the divine, is understanding the relationship that we have with God, that God is impersonal, so showing no favoritism, and that God is also having this personality of likes attracting likes and being drawn to that which is just like itself. And we are created in that image. Interestingly enough, on our news, Donald Trump declared that COVID-19 was a gift from God, a blessing from God. I want to make it very clear that though we may toss that thought around very casually, number one, God is not giving COVID-19, not even to teach lessons or whatever. That is not the way the divine universe works. For God is love. And for love to know sickness, for love to bestow sickness, for love to say, I give you this sickness, or I make you go through this struggle, would mean that it ceases to be love. because love is 100% the highest and best. So love doesn't say, oh, I've decided I want to make you sick, or I've decided today I'm going to make you poor, or I've decided today I want to see you suffer, or today. That's not love. And God is love. Not God is loving, God is love. Let's make sure we understand that. What love is what God is. So for us to say that, oh, I've been blessed, or God gifted me with this COVID-19, no, you drew it onto yourself through your own lack of respect for the virus and accepting responsibility by not wearing a mask, by not social distancing. We all draw these kind of things when we don't follow, shall we say, appropriate guidelines with wisdom that's been given to us. So it is in our own error that we draw sickness to us. It's in our own error thinking and error in consciousness that we attract dis-ease. We create the dis-ease within our lives that creates the sickness within us. And this is simply our error. So we understand that God is impersonal, and God is not blessing someone with COVID-19 or not blessing others with COVID-19. God is not giving COVID-19 as a gift to some and not to others. That has nothing to do, that is not the work of God. The work of God is impartial, and it is having the personality of likes attracting likes. So now let's think about this as we go into prayer. Another aspects of this analytical method is that we must engage in reasoning. Reasoning is for the purpose of dissolving the practitioner's doubts. So as we go into prayer, we will need to engage in this reasoning that helps to dissolve the doubts that we may have as we pray for either ourselves or someone else. Dr. David Carter has a question.
Okay, so that's when a practitioner would say affirmations and denials. Is that part of the reasoning?
It definitely can be, yes. Whatever tool is necessary for us. Because the infinite healing presence is well able to deal with this issue. So the reasoning is, and I liken onto a little bit of a step of recognition, in that we are recognizing and reasoning, holding in mind that the power of God is able to resolve every issue. We hold in mind the very promise that says all things are possible with God. That's all things, not some things, not just a few things, not easy things. It's all things are possible with God. So we reason that the condition is entirely a thing of thought, and that the constructive thought is 10,000 times more powerful than the destructive thought. Therefore, this constructive thought of ours has power to overcome the destructive pattern. So let's explain that. So we understand that we reason that the condition is entirely a thing of thought. So your condition of lack, your poverty, your lack of abundance has to do with your thoughts of saying, I just don't have enough. In today's world, we have a lot of people say, you know, I live on a fixed income. I struggle with that. I don't like to hear that because I believe in the divine presence. There is no fixed income. We're in the divine flow of income that's accessible to us at all times, and in many ways, an unexpected income coming to us. So the divine has all kinds of unique ways of operating. Let's not limit it and saying, well, you know, Pastor, do you understand? I have a fixed income. This is my check. I get Social Security, or this is what my salary is, and it's fixed, it's limited, it's there. And that's our thinking. So the more we engage in this kind of limited thinking or thinking of lack, and the more we say, I'm limited, I'm limited, I'm limited, well, we create this condition that says, I'm limited. And we're living in that. So our thoughts are creating our world. And then if we understand that the thought is 10 times more powerful, the thought of good, the constructive thought is more powerful than the destructive thought, then we know that, wait a minute, if I've been thinking of lack and it's been manifesting, what if I thought of abundance? So if lack thought could manifest, the constructive thought of living in abundance and unexpected income coming to me is more powerful and would overcome the destructive thought of lack. Well, then let me start thinking abundance. Change your thinking, change your world. Change your mind, and when you do, and you embrace the affirmative and the positive, you're going to find a transformation happening within your life and the world around you. So this is our reasoning. Our reasoning is we know that thoughts create our reality. So we're going to think affirmative thoughts, positive, constructive thoughts that will release the destructive energies within our world. So what we find is that we're shifting now to a feeling of abundance, and we're creating thoughts of abundance, thinking abundance, affirming it, claiming it. We're opening our life now to be receptive, to receive all kinds of good things coming to us. Here's a key though. Are you open to receiving? You know, what's so true in our world today is that many times people will say, oh, let me pick up the tab for dinner. You go, oh, no, you don't have to do that. Oh, please, no. And we make a big stink about it. And we're like, wait a minute. Number one, don't ever rob someone of their desire to be a blessing to you. Don't ever limit that, because what you're doing then is creating a limitation. And number two, open yourself to being receptive means that you will receive the generosity that's coming to us. And I'm going to tell you this, there's so many times that we in our day-to-day journey have refused the generosity of the universe that's been there wanting to offer things to us. And we keep saying, no. Let me tell you this, after you've heard no so many times, people stop offering, don't they? Because we hear it over and over again. We heard, if I offer this to you, you keep saying no. So let me tell you this. To change your whole thinking, let me offer this to you, that it would really benefit you, that if someone offers something to you, and even if it may not be your cup of tea, take it. Because what you're doing is you're learning to be receptive. And if they gave it to you, they released it. And you could do with it whatever you choose. So someone may say, oh, I have this lovely sweater. I'd love to give it to you. And you go, oh, no. So let's just change that scenario. Say, oh, thank you. I received this lovely sweater. Now, obviously, you thought I'm a size XXX, and thank God I'm not. So you may say, thank you. I receive it, but I'm going to pass it on. But don't even tell the person. Just know that you have the right, because you received the gift, you could pass it on to someone else and give that gift to them and be a blessing to someone else who may need it. But never say no to the gifts that the universe is trying to offer us, and through people coming our way and offering, say, hey, can I give you a ride? Can I do this for you? Can I help you out in some way? These are ways that honestly are offering to us unexpected income, because it's coming to us in some tangible material ways that, we may not have to buy it. Someone said, I'll give you a ride, save you some gas money, wear and tear on your car, right? That's unexpected income. Someone says, I'll buy lunch for you. That's unexpected income. You would have had to buy lunch. So when you understand this, you're opening yourself to the wonderful awareness of that we're called to receive. And I know in our world we think, I'd much rather give than to receive. Trust me. We need to learn to be receptive to receive so we can be even greater givers. If you want to be generous, if you want to be giving, you have to be open to be receiving. So if you're open to receiving from the universe is going to bless you. The universe is going to manifest within you abundance because you're open to it. And then you could say, I want to be a better giver. So let me be generous, giving here, giving there. And as we are a better giver, we're going to open ourselves up to be a better receiver, because what we put out comes back to us. So we're in this wonderful cycle of blessing that keeps spinning and spinning faster and faster and faster as we get into this awareness that I need to learn to receive as I desire to give. And as I give, I know I will be receiving. Was there a comment over here? Yes, Dr. David.
I was just going to ask you to help me with this. Okay, so let's say I'm a practitioner and someone comes to me and tells me that they're in pain. So when I go through the steps of the treatment, the recognition, so when I get to the realization, am I going to say something like that this person is created, and I know that this person is created in wholeness and perfection, because that's what God is and they're a part of God. And that though they may be experiencing some dis-ease, it is neither person, place, nor thing. So, and that the knowledge that they're created in wholeness and perfection is 10,000 times more powerful than the thought of the dis-ease. Where do I go from there?
Well, you're on a roll. So where do you go from there? You are, so far, I mean, you're doing a wonderful job of not petitioning, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later, of making the statement, perfect God, perfect man, perfect structure, perfect function. And you're stating the truth about someone. That's what we want to do. In our prayer treatment, we're stating the truth about someone. Remember, now the truth is perfect mind, perfect man, perfect structure, perfect being, perfect function, everything perfect. So that's what we're naming in our prayer treatment. And of course, we want to make sure that we're also speaking this in the third person when we talk to someone. So we don't say, David Carter is well, but we say David Carter is well. We talk about the patient. We not talk about the patient. That's good. We talk about the patient, not to the patient. Right. So what we say about him is the treatment, or what we say about her is the prayer treatment. It is our realization. I speak now that David Carter is whole, well, healed, abundant, prosperous. I speak that now because I'm speaking the realization of truth. And the truth is, we live in a realm of abundance. We do, but it's we who are holding it back. We live in the realm of wholeness. We do, but it's we who are holding it back. We live in the realm of complete health and wellness and perfection. That's how we are created. This being that you are was created in perfection. Now, people may say, okay, wait a minute, but what about the person who has a handicap or this or that? That doesn't seem to be perfection. But remember, we're looking again from the physical and we're passing judgments. And we want to say, well, that woman who's a size 0 is perfect, but that woman who's a size 22 is not perfect. Oh, wait, why? Who said they're perfect and not perfect? You see, it's our society's judgments of those things, but in God, all are perfect. And we need to see our perfection. And as we allow that perfection to rise up, greater health and wholeness begins to manifest from us. So someone may have a handicap. Does that mean that they're not perfect within, that their soul and spirit and not who they are? Someone who's short, are they less perfect than someone who's tall? If someone is, has blonde hair, are they less perfect than someone who is brunette? So we're all looking at all these physical things. We're all perfect within. And that perfection is within the soul and the essence of who we are. That's where we are. Now, this body, over how we take care of it, may have some imperfections because we didn't take good care of it. That may be true. But innately, how we are created in our true essence is there's perfection in you. I see the perfection. I see you, the real you. This body is not the real you. The real you is the divine essence within you. And oh my Lord, it's gorgeous today. You're looking fabulous. The divine essence in you is beautiful. It is so, Ray, you're looking stunning and so handsome because the divine essence in you is so good. Steve, look at you. You are amazing. I see nothing but just beauty because that's what we're looking for to see as God sees. To see the divine, that the God in me sees the God in you. Namaste. All right. So did that answer your question? Does that help you enough, or do we need to go on? You're good?
So then the next step you would just release after you acknowledge. You just go to the next step.
Yes. We've talked about reason. Now we're on realization. Let's just make sure we've covered all of this. That in realization, we realize that there is not the slightest reason why our words should not have power and not the least occasion for any doubt to be in our lives. This is our realization. Are we realizing that there's no reason why that which we speak to be true does not manifest, that it will manifest for us? That's coming to this powerful realization that there's no reason for fear, and knowing is higher than fear. And our demonstrations are made upon that which we know rather than upon that which we feel. Okay? So let's make sure we know that. So what is your knowing? So it's really important. Do you know the divine law, the divine principles at work? Do you know? Do you trust? Do you have this sense of, I realize that there's no reason why the word that I speak now for David in this prayer treatment, the word that I speak that David Carter is whole, David Carter is well, David Carter is prosperous. There's no reason why that word that I speak now should not come back and return to me having full fruition. There's no reason. Because we are the divine expression, and we have the authority. We're going to talk about that in just a few moments. The authority to speak the very desires of our heart. For the scripture says, you shall decree a thing and it shall be so. Wow. Wow. When we decree a thing, and that's the I am, when we begin to say, I am whole, I am well, I decree it. And as we begin to embrace the I am, and live from the I am, that is the power within us, the God within us that is saying, yes, I agree. You are whole. You are well. You are abundant. So we want to make sure that we have come to this place of, in realization, what is it that we know? What do we know? So we want to make sure that we've got this element of the, should we say, the masculine coupling with the feminine, the knowing with the emotion, the intellect with the feeling. So we need these components to marry together, to merge together, because your knowing is stronger than your feeling. It is stronger than your fear when you know something, okay? So it's kind of like this. I go ziplining with Robert, my partner. Now, I have a fear of heights. I'm not really crazy about standing on that ledge looking down over a deep canyon, suspended by a cable, hooked to a little cable line, and gliding across that cable to the other side. Flowing through the air the length of a football field without anything underneath me, well, that doesn't really, excite me. It makes me nervous. It breaks out a feeling of fear. Now, as I stand on that ledge, preparing to step off and zip across that great canyon of space, the guide is telling me, you're safe. Don't worry. This is how it works. This is how you will glide across. And I see the person before me going on that zip line, zipping across. They made it safely. I see several others going across. They made it safely. I see Robert hooked up, harnessed up, clicked onto the zip line and jumping off and zipping across. He makes it safely. What is it my knowing says? You will make it safely too. So in that great confidence, it is greater. My knowing is greater than my emotion. It's greater than my fear. So suddenly my knowing puts fear aside, and I invoke a sense of greater confidence within me. So this is what we need to understand, that to know this truth about us or about the person is that we realize it. We realize there's nothing to be afraid of. We realize that the word we speak is coming forth and going to manifest. We know, and it's greater than any fear or any doubt. The next step is release. Now, this is an analytical method that we're talking about. These are some things that help us in this analytical method understand how to move through prayer treatment. Now, we've had several classes on a school of prayer that offer you maybe 5 steps, some 7 steps. We might add denial and reaffirmation in there, all these kind of things. This is really us understanding the depth behind these steps. So for us to, we may start out in the simple patterns of prayer, and we say that the first thing is realization, right?
No, recognition.
I mean, recognition. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yes, recognition. Thank you. Recognition, unification, realization.
Thanksgiving and release.
Okay, gratitude or thanksgiving. And release. Okay? So what we're doing is helping you understand through relaxation in the first step, through recognition and understanding what that really is and breaking it down. we come then to understanding how to do this step number 1 easily, because we're understanding what it's all about. We're understanding more and more that what we have to do in recognition is we find great strength in saying, I recognize the power of God flowing in and through me, and I have the authority, God-given authority, as a child of God, as an extension of the divine. I have the authority to speak the creative process, to speak this creative word that I'm holding in mind, and it's moving through the subconscious, and it's manifesting in form. And I am speaking this creative process right now, and I have a perfect peace about it. I have a strong realization. The next is to release. Now, the creative mind is the only agency in the universe that can transform thoughts into things. It is like a river in which thoughts of man are falling into, and we release our thoughts into this divine flow. We just release it and let it go, you know? How wonderful it is. Did you ever make a little sailboat or something that might float down a river? Did you ever, as a child, maybe create something, a little boat that you released to the water? How about your little rubber duck that you had in your bathtub? Maybe you let it go out in a river stream, and there it went. It floated away. You released. I love the imagery of a balloon release. They used to be more popular years ago, but because of our environment, and we're not trying to release more trash into the environment and more plastic products, etc., and strings. But years ago, we used to always engage in an annual balloon release, and how powerful it is to have these balloons full of helium, and we let them go, and watching them drift off into the sky. Goodbye, there you go. I released it. You can't get them back, can you? It was really hard. We would have to fly up on an airplane and try to collect all those balloons, and how difficult that may be in our life to even try to do that, because we've released it, we've let it go, and it can't come back to us. This is the beauty of when we speak the word, we're releasing it into the divine flow, and it's flowing away, and it's gone. It's released like that helium balloon, and you can't get it back because you've released it when you really released it. Now, I've seen those people who I'd like to release it. Oh, I'm holding on to it. I want to let go. I want to keep holding on to it. And they don't really release. A release is to let it go. Release a grip on it. Let go of anything. So in mind how important it is that we release this to the power of God. So what do we do when we release something into the power of God? Many of our great authors are saying you Sabbath, you rest, right? You rest, you relax, it's done. But how about, can we not just worry about it a little bit? Can we not just stress a little bit? How about, isn't that natural? Shouldn't we be just a little bit panicky? We did release it, but can't we just be, then you didn't release it. You didn't release it if you're still holding on to fear, doubt, panic. We've got to let it go completely. Now, in the release, what helps us understand this is that the responsibility is on mind. The responsibility is on the divine. The responsibility is on the infinite wisdom. The responsibility is on the universe. The responsibility is on God, not on us. So to help you release is you drop all responsibility and you step out from under the responsibility for making our word come to pass. That responsibility simply belongs to God, to mine. Scripture says, the Father that dwelleth in me, he does the work. John 14:10. Don't you believe that I am the Father, the divine source, and that the Father, the divine source, is in me? The words I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority, but rather it is the Father, the divine source living in me, who is doing the work. Wow. Could you not just chill and relax? Because, whoa, the how is not my business. The how is not my doing. So I can easily release it into the universe. Oh, but wait a minute. Don't we need to know how? How? No, the how is not our job. The how is the universe's job. Our job is to release, to speak the desire, to let it go. That's our responsibility, is to release it fully, knowing that it is God who is doing the work in us. 2 Timothy 1:12 says, I know whom I have believed, and I am convinced that he is able to guard what I have entrusted to him until that day. Wow, that's a true word of faith, of confidence. I know who I believe in. I believe in this mighty power of the universe. I believe in the infinite wisdom. I believe in the divine expression of God. And I'm convinced that this divine expression, I believe this wonderful manifestation, this all that is of God, I've trusted to God completely. And I believe it's going to manifest because that power is what's doing the work, not me. Because it is the Father who is doing the work in me. It is the divine source that's doing the work through me. It's the divine source that's doing it around me. It's the divine source that's doing it always for me. Do we understand that? So we don't have to worry about the how. Our work is the power and energy of the vibrational level of complete trust. We're releasing everything in complete trust. What a powerful vibrational frequency. We release things in and it goes into the divine flow. And there it goes. We release the balloon. We let the boat flow down the river. It's gone into the universe for the universe to handle it. Then the last step that he's suggesting is rejoicing. So give thanks as soon as you've released your word to the infinite. This is giving substance to the things hoped for and evidence to the things not seen. Now the rejoicing is not for the purpose of influencing the divine. It's not for God. We're not, let's just praise God. Let's just praise God, hoping that the more we praise, we can manipulate God in our favor. No, we're rejoicing because we already have it. We're rejoicing because we already possess it. We're thrilled, and that's our rejoicing, our full extent of gratitude. So we might look at gratitude as rejoicing. So that really describes the kind of gratitude that we really want to have. It's a rejoicing gratitude. We understand this releasing meaning a complete trust and letting go, that we came to this. We can release it because of our realization, because our understanding that it is the Father working in and through us. That's how it really helps us to release. And when we understand that truly through reasoning, our realization becomes even stronger. And through our reasoning, that we remember that we're permeated like the biscuit that's been dropped in the ocean. We're permeated with all the ocean. That's our unification and understanding it. We become so one with something that we understand. We're one with that impersonal God. We're one with that personality of likes attracting likes. And we also understand that as we begin with this understanding of our relationship, it is truly a recognition of the divine power and presence in us, through us, around us, and always for us. And then what was the first step? But we always begin with, let's just relax. Let's just be at perfect peace. Take some deep breaths. So we've gone through these 7 steps of an analytical method that really help us understand even more, shall we say, these steps of prayer treatment. I'm going to talk about some very practical points concerning prayer treatment. As we said earlier, treat everyone by using the third person, meaning David Carter is well, John Smith is well, Susan Jones is well. We talk about the patient, not to him. Okay? We talk about the truth in our prayer that we want to see manifested. And we do not petition. We don't plead. We don't beg. We're not saying, please, 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 please. But we simply, in this, understand perfect God, perfect man, perfect structure, perfect function. This is the truth about the person that I speak now. I speak about their perfection. I see it. I call it forth. And we speak with authority. We've gone over this again. Thou shalt decree a thing, and it shall be established unto thee, says the scriptures, that God gave us authority over all things. Do we understand that? From the very creation story in the book of Genesis, it shares with us, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule, so that they may have authority over all things. And the example is fish in the sea, birds in the sky, livestock, wild animals, over all creatures that move around the ground. And people go, oh, you're so literalist. Oh, so we have authority over all cats and dogs? it's just a wonderful symbolic and word picture that says you got authority over everything. You have authority over those giants that are coming up in your life that you may name as Goliath. You have authority over that problem. You have authority over that challenge. You have authority over that sickness. You have authority over that poverty. You have authority over that lack. You have the authority to rule over all these things. So why are we not taking our authority and using it? And here's our problem. We've been convinced to be weak, to be powerless. We think we are powerless and we have no authority because, well, I'm just me and I have nothing. Because, wait a minute, we forgot who we are. We forgot we're the expression of the divine. God in us, God through us, God around us, and God always for us. Yes, Brenda.
If we're doing a prayer treatment for ourselves, then we can use the I am
Yes,
as the third.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great. That is part of your realization. I am whole. I am well. Especially when you're speaking for yourself. Yes. Someone else with a question or comment? Well, I want to say thank you for joining us for today's class session. I sure appreciate all of you viewing with us and joining us in this study. I hope you're learning more about this analytical method, and if you'll take time to read through the chapter, if you've got further questions, please email me at revtpaul@aol.com. Let me know how I can help you or assist you in this journey of spiritual enlightenment. But today's class, we want to make sure that we understand these analytical method of prayer treatment, that we begin with an understanding of relaxation, finding that position both mentally and emotionally where we are just so relaxed, ready to receive, that we are in recognition of this divine power of God, and that all the answers to every problem lie within this divine mind, and that we understand this relationship that we are one with the divine. And this relationship is all about us understanding that God's not picking out who God likes and loves more, but that every blessing that we see manifested in the world, for one, is available to us. Okay? So if you see someone else walking in prosperity, that prosperity is available to you as well. You see someone, oh, wow, they're blessed with a new car or a beautiful house, or this is going on well in their lives, and I'm so jealous. Why waste the energy of being jealous? Because jealous just emphasizes, I don't have. I'm upset because I don't have. I lack. And the more we just let that cycle through, the more we create lack in our lives. But instead say, wow, I'm so excited. Tell me about the blessing. Tell me about what God has done in your life. Tell me what the goodness of how it's unfolded for you. Tell me what you manifested, what you believe for. Tell me about it, because I'm so excited, because if it happens for you, it can happen for me. And then we understand fully as we go through this, our reasoning, that we reason that God is able to deal with this issue, and that we reason that our thought is the constructive, that power that is creating our reality. So let's think constructively, and we will overcome all destructive thoughts. In our realization, we understand fully that there is no reason to fear. We know this truth about the person that we're praying for, or that situation that we're believing for, or for ourselves. We fully realize it, and we release and we rejoice. So I'm so glad that you were here. And if you have a takeaway today, I'd love to hear about it. So we're going to go around our room and we're going to ask you, what is your takeaway? What spoke to you? What resonated with you? What was your aha moment in this time of study together? And for those of you joining us through the live streaming or through our YouTube channel, we appreciate your comments as well. We'd love to hear what your takeaway is. So if you take a moment to just type it in, our registrar, Dr. David Carter, is viewing the Facebook page and will watch for your comments and alert me. We'll love to hear what you've got to say about your takeaway from today's study time. So let's go around our room. We're going to start over here with Steve and tell us what your takeaway is, what really spoke to you today in today's class.
Well, out of all the elements that are important, reasoning, I think, is critical to having, everything work, because It's sort of like the guardian at the gate, not only of what comes into your consciousness, but what goes out of your consciousness.
Beautiful.
You mentioned jealousy a moment ago, and that's, a lot of people identify with their emotions right away and think, "Oh, this is true. That should be mine. I wish I had that." Reasoning, you can reason against that and say, "Well, why should I be jealous? How's that benefit me? What, is there really a good reason? Should I be jealous?" So it's not just questioning what comes in, but also what goes out. And I think that's reasoning is a very important element in growth.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Dr. David Carter, what's your takeaway?
My takeaway has to do with the step of realization, realizing that I have the authority, that my word has power, and I have the authority to call a thing and name it, and know that whatever I speak will come back to me manifesting that which I spoke.
Beautiful. Excellent. Let's go to Brenda. What's your takeaway from today's class?
I just noticed that when you were talking about it's easy to give, but for me it's not that easy to receive. If somebody comes up and says, "Let me carry those up the steps for you," and I'll say, no, I can do it. And they'll say, "Well, the bag is bigger than you are." And I'll say, no, I can do it, even though it's very hard. So I've got to learn to accept abundance more, because I always want to prove that I can do it.
Right. And we think we should be self-reliant, and we should be the kind of people that we don't need help from others because we're strong enough. We've taken responsibility for things. But let me tell you this. If everyone in our world said no to the generosity of others, where would this cycle of blessing be? It would stop. You see, it's all about the divine flow. And as we find simply, can you imagine, as the employer says, "Thank you for your job. Here's your paycheck for the week." And you say, "Oh, no. Oh, no, I can't take that paycheck. Thank you, but no. I don't, you need it. You just don't." Can you imagine what the economy would like if everybody in the world refused income coming in? They refused their paycheck? Because it's, "Oh, no, I shouldn't. I'm working for you, but, I can do this on my own or whatever. I don't need your assistance." Well, the whole economy, because what would happen is if we refuse that paycheck, we refuse the revenue to share with somebody else. We would actually kill and destroy the divine flow. So let's just say, wait a minute. How many times have we put a niche, a little glitch, shall we say, or whatever, in the divine flow by saying no and not receiving what someone has offered to us? So, it's just take it in generosity. Take it and say, "Oh, I'm allowing you to be blessed by saying, carry that bag upstairs for me."
I'm going to do that.
Amen.
I'm going to allow them to do that.
Right. Now, the next time someone says, "Hey, I'm coming to your house to clean your house," I'm saying, "I am receiving." Yeah. Someone says, "I'm coming over to weed your garden." I am receiving. Yes. I am not hindering anybody from those things. Yeah. I'm going to come and do laundry. Yes. All right. I love all that. Yeah. We're just open, and we just need to allow that cycle to flow. Excellent takeaway. Thank you. And tell us what your takeaway is. Speak up real loud.
I realize that the feelings of nature and beauty are the same as those as when we commune with God.
Yes.
And that God is love. And so it all goes together. When I'm meditating and I get that feeling, it's the feeling of nature and it's God. I know that's God. It's not just an old feeling. But I wanted to ask you something. A couple of months ago, somebody said to me, "You heal yourself." And I said, "I know that." And they said, "I know you know that." And to me, in my pattern, right away, I thought, I'm not good enough. I've been waiting around for God to heal my hip pain and all this, and I just can't do it. I don't, And I could have written a book on what I've gone through in those 2 months. And what I really came back with was what we have to do is change our thinking. So that's part of healing yourself, but
Right.
God helps those that help themselves. And so number one, I have to change my thinking, get a positive affirmation. And number two is, you know what? I went to the doctor and I got x-rays. And, you know, is that biblical that God helps those that help themselves? I just tried to look it up in the Wi-Fi, so I'm going.
Well, it's a principle that we have, a cliche that we've kind of described it.
Okay.
Yes, when Jesus said to the lame man, do you want to be healed? Then pick up your bed and walk.
So
Jesus
do
didn't say,
something
oh,
about
let me
it.
get that bed for you, or let me move your legs for you. So yes, as we treat, we move our feet. We
Okay.
start helping ourselves as we walk in belief. Yes.
A lot
Wonderful.
came to me today. Thank you.
Excellent. I love your analogy. Truly, as we look at meditation and prayer, when we look out to nature, and if you just sit and watch, if you're a bird watcher and you watch these birds fly down and find some food, where did that food come from? The universe provided for them. And then they're flying up to the tree branch to build a nest. Where did that tree branch come from? The universe provided. And where do they find these little twigs that they build the nest in for their family and their home? Where did all that come from? The universe provided. Then we look and think, wait a minute, but God can't provide for us? Or we can't believe that God knows the desires of our heart? The universe is always in the mode of provision. It's providing for you right now. It just is we who have restricted this provision. So how beautiful it is to sit in meditation and watch nature. Watch everything being cared for in a loving context amongst the universe's work of loving and caring and nurturing. And so it is that God wants to work for us. Elise.
I think what I came away with was focusing on the releasing and rejoicing. I think when I have a desire for something, I don't know, maybe you can answer this question. I feel like, I'll have a certain desire, and I've applied to this job, and I really want this job. But I feel like I have to release it, because if it's not right for me, then it won't be offered. But if it is right, then it will be offered. Or, I don't know, I get confused with all that, or am I just supposed to? I feel like maybe I outline too much.
And you know what can help us is if we're just walking into this or something better. So we're believing for the job, but if the door closes on this job, you just know that something better was coming your way. So we're still holding and knowing that it's this or something better. And in each case, the divine wisdom of the universe knows the highest and best for us, and that's what we're claiming. This being an example, or universe, you know best. I allow you, in their infinite wisdom, to manifest what you believe is best for me.
I like that.
Right.
And one more thing that came to me when you were talking about provision, I haven't worked in 8 months, and when I look at my bank account, I swear it really hasn't gone down. I don't understand it, because I look at my bank statements, and certainly I've paid my bills, but it really hasn't gone down.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
God is always providing. Ray, do you have a takeaway? Can you shout it from the way in the back?
So much of what I heard and totally accept was a place that I've been at for a while, much of the time. And it reminds me to stay present to what my blessings are, because they're manifold. And it includes meditating, if no other reason, and there are other reasons, because stuff comes up that I'm not consciously aware of day in and day out, that are blessings that I do receive. And it's welcome when I acknowledge it, because I'm not acknowledging it for myself. And currently, my life is so easy and so good that if I forget to count those blessings, I'm missing out on something else just to wallow in. Oh, joy to the world, joy to me. My life is easy. My life is blessed. My intention is to be open and listen to other ways that I can enrich the life I live, including with whom can I be helpful, with whom can I be supportive, with whom can I say thank you, because I get gifts every day, for that I'm thankful every day, and so it is.
Beautiful. I hope you all could hear Ray just counting his blessings and talking about the goodness of God in so many different ways. Beautiful takeaway. Thank you, everyone. Is there other takeaways from our class students who are joining us through live streaming?
Susan Dexter says she liked your story about others preceding you on the zip line.
Ah, yes. It paves the way for the knowing. Beautiful. Thank you, Susan. Anyone else? If not, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a delight to share this insight with you and to join together in discussion. I know the presence of God is doing something miraculous within you, and that you have become part of this class, not by accident, but for a divine purpose. And I know it's unfolding for you. Thank you so much for being with us. I look forward to seeing you next week as we join together in our next chapters as we walk through the book of the basic principles of science of mind. Now, if you enjoyed this class, we hope that you'll make a donation to help the work continue. Your gifts are greatly appreciated for the Emerson Institute. If you'd like to go on our website at www.cityoflightatlanta.com, there's a donate button there, and you can make your donation or contribution. We appreciate it so much. Thank you for your generous giving. And for those of you joining us in our class setting, you can also place your gift in the basket for as a donation for today's class session. Thank you so much. And once again, I'll see you next week as the Emerson Institute continues live from City of Light at 3125 Presidential Parkway. God bless you.